Hi, I'm Mike Voss. So we're here at Land Gallery on Mississippi. We're here for my show, Perception of Color and a Notion of Time. I'm going to take you upstairs and show you my work. This one here is called Southern Playboy. I shot this in Tennessee, in Chattanooga actually. I don't normally talk about the places specifically where I shoot for a number of reasons. This one's okay to talk about because it's not there anymore. But it was built in the 70s by a strip club mogul in Chattanooga. It had a pool, had a helicopter pad on the roof, it had like a tiki lounge outside. He went to prison for a long time for attempted murder. Long story, you should look it up. Daily Mail did an awesome article about this place. I got to go and shoot it a couple years ago, and I was there with my digital camera. It's actually the only image in the whole show that's digital. But I was there with my digital camera taking what I called safety shots. Took a bunch of photos, left, fully intending to come back, and a week to the day later, this building got torn down. So I didn't get to go back. Thankfully, I did get to go once, and I might have been the last person that got to go. So I'm pretty thankful for that, and I got some good images out of it. So this one's called Finding Another Loose End. I shot this in Hawaii. This is around Thanksgiving, November-ish. This one I shot on a medium format camera, and I used a special film that I cross-processed, and it tints the film a different color. And so this one kind of has like this pink hue to it. If you want to come closer and take a look. So you can see the sky has a bit of a pink quality to it, and the greens turn kind of a weird shifting color. The idea with this being that I see color differently than other people do because of my color vision deficiency. And so this is an attempt to kind of bridge that gap between my camera and myself of what I see and what my camera sees, and kind of create something that is unique for everyone and not necessarily just for me. So this is an abandoned resort called the Cocoa Palms out there. This is also at that resort in Hawaii. This one's called Something So Grand Will Happen One Day. This place is pretty famous. I guess Elvis shot a couple movies here, and most of the time when I show people this work, that's the first thing they want to tell me is, oh, Elvis shot some movies there. Yeah, I know. It does have a pretty interesting story, and it is on some ancestral Hawaiian land on Kauai. So there's a lot of layers to that, and I encourage folks to learn as much as they can about it. This is another one from that same resort called One Foot in the Grave. So you can see this building was damaged by a fire at one point. This is actually me standing on the roof of another part of the resort. And the resort is massive. It's the size of a small town, basically. And I was really captivated by not only the building, but this tree line behind it. There's this like very solid line of palm trees in the back there. This is actually technically in a coconut grove. So when you're actually in there, it feels just like a jungle, basically. It doesn't feel like it used to be a resort. This one's called Bleach in the Sky. This is shot in California, and it's shot in what used to be a town, I guess technically a neighborhood. It was built on the cliffs of this ocean, and the cliffs eroded away so quickly that houses actually were toppling into the water. And so they were able to lift a couple of the buildings off of their foundations and move them and relocate them to different neighborhoods. But so much of this place just toppled into the ocean. There used to be a hotel right here, and these are all foundations from different buildings that are still there. It's technically off limits to go, but people are out there like walking their dogs and taking their kids and playing and stuff, so it's not that off limits. This is another one from that same location. This one's called The Sea Swallowing This Whole. This is another medium format. that I shot with my Mamiya camera, and as you can see, it has that pink quality from that cross-processing across the sky. Has a very like sweet look to it. The other one was a little bit more bleached looking, and this one has like a very like sweet kind of cotton candy look to it that gives it kind of a retro feel and also a very tropical feel. But at the same time, it's clear that this is a very luxurious place to visit, since there's trees covered in graffiti and bits and pieces of concrete and lots of old detritus and garbage laying around. This is called An Ocean Breathing Waves. This one is also shot in Hawaii. This is a double exposure. It's not cross-processed, it's just a double exposure that happens in camera. And again, it's shot with my Mamiya medium format. So the idea was just to kind of mix these organic and inorganic shapes. This idea that straight lines don't exist in nature. So I wanted to play with that idea a little bit and add these silhouettes of these buildings here and the outline of the pool over here and mix that in with the palm shapes. It's pretty clear that this is, you know, tropical place. I think people would probably assume this was shot in Hawaii. This one's called A Storm Over the Mountain. This one is actually a negative. It's one of the cross-processed pieces of film, but it's the negative, so it's the inverse of that. So it gets this kind of turquoise color. This was also shot in Hawaii, and a storm was moving in over a mountain, and it gave it this very ominous feel to it. And again, I wanted to tell this continuing story of the palm trees. These two, Silent Summer Home number 1 and 2, these are shot on Oahu, and this is the summer home of King Kamehameha, and it's kind of a secret place to go to. This state had emailed different websites and travel blogs and things like that, asking people to remove directions on how to get to this place, because unfortunately a lot of vandalism was happening. But this is a very sacred place in Hawaii. I felt very privileged and lucky to go there. And as you can see, there's parts of the building that still remain, and it kind of starts to blend in with the background a little bit. There's definitely an odd feeling going to this location, not only because it's so quiet, but you just, for lack of a better word, you just feel this very odd energy while you're there. It's definitely an experience. This is a Silent Home number 3. This is a different kind of film that's cross-processed, so it gives it this green look. And what I was hoping for with this image was kind of blurring this line of the building as a human-made object and the tree line behind it. And it's almost like you can't really see the seams, and it all kind of bleeds together a little bit. It all has this like very bright green quality to it. And you really don't see the building unless you kind of step close and start to examine the different layers, further blurring the lines between, you know, nature taking over civilization. This one's called Strange Eons. This is a photograph I made in Rhode Island. And this was on a trip that I went specifically for another project, but normally when I travel with multiple cameras. And so I shot this again on my medium format camera and cross-processed the film. And I wanted to keep this theme of these trees to kind of carry this story and let kind of the shapes carry the story more than the color. And that's why as you walk through the gallery and you walk through, like the shapes kind of carry the story along. So I was really drawn to this one, and it was hard for me to incorporate it in because I felt it was so different, because everything else had a very tropical feel to it. But I liked this transition that brings us into this fall New England vibe. The shot was made on Devil's Night in Rhode Island. This one's called No Birds Fly Here. This is shot in Eastern Oregon, and it was shot on a little Holga camera. For those that don't know, Holgas are these little cheap plastic cameras, very rudimentary focus system on them. They have light leaks. As you can see, there's some of the light leaks up here, this orange and pink that bleeds in. And it's something a sense of pride that I feel of making an image that I'm really proud of with very rudimentary tools. So this, kind of cheap plastic camera and making something that, I think is worthy enough to hang in a gallery. I feel a lot of pride in that. This one's called I'll Meet You in the Graveyard, and it was shot on my 4x5 camera, so it's a large format. So again, it's another double exposure. This was shot on Halloween, and this is a historic cemetery out in Massachusetts. And again, the double exposure kind of plays with this idea of organic and inorganic shapes, and you can see that the gravestones are kind of popping through, and then it's surrounded by leaves. And when you get up really close and you look inside the gravestones, you can still clearly read the writing, but you can also see the branches poking through, and there are these very unique, strange shapes, like these branches that arch up and make this little dome shape with another gravestone. So there's just a lot of detail in the shadows of this image, and I just felt that it fit really well with kind of the theme of the show. These two are called an alternate timeline. Both are technically single exposure shots, and they're shot on 35mm film. Hey.
Hello.
Y'all can walk through if you want. So they're shot as a single exposure, and this is just a reflection in the window of an abandoned building on the coast. And so it's right at sunset, so you can see a lot of detail inside the building, and you can also see the cliff here and the ocean and the sun setting behind. Same with this one. Thankfully, a lot of the shadows and a lot of the natural landscape kind of sync up in a symmetrical way, and you get these like floating chairs in the middle of the beach here, and it gets to a point where it's difficult to tell which side you're looking at. Like, are you looking inside the building? Are you looking at the reflection of the sunset behind? So these were fun. This one's called It All Started Here. This is an abandoned sugar factory in Hawaii. It was a double exposure, and this plays into like my inability to distinguish certain colors, because when I made this image it tinted a really bizarre color and I couldn't figure out why, but I actually kind of liked this kind of rainbow shift that it created, so I just ran with it and I embraced it rather than fought against it, and ended up making an image that I was pretty excited about.